Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays the Binding of Isaac Afterbirth. Plus, there's nothing to say except, let's get ourselves back on the horse, shall we? LA9DKLNM. It's always a little hard, to be honest with you, when you lose a run, or a streak, I should say, that you've been on for like 2 months. We gotta start over from zero. It's something I've only had to deal with like 2 times since February, which is, I mean, that in and of itself is great cause for celebration. However, the first video kind of sucks. And you know, I can wax philosophical about it. I think it's a skill to learn, is getting on the horse, you know? Getting back on the horse, let's say. Why do we fall off the horse, Master Wayne? To get back on. Michael Caine. I think that's gotta be from Batman Begins. I don't know. That's one of those quotes that Malf has said so much that I really just see that as a Malf quote, to be honest with you. But it's, I slip into self-caricature from time to time, but I do think, you know, some of the stuff that I do as a YouTuber and streamer, despite not requiring what, you know, we might call hard skills. Is that what because there's soft skills, there's gotta be hard skills. Or is it like, you know, soft versus crunchy skills? I'm not totally sure about the way that that's supposed to go. Hold on. We can maybe go to the shop here. We got all this money. Gotta play this one right and get back on the horse. But there are things about it that I think you can draw, or I can draw at least, some sort of like really overly philosophical life lessons from. You know, if you play to never feel bad, you're already setting out for loser. Wait, I don't listen to a lot of, or read a lot of self-help or like new age philosophical stuff at all, but I do like the philosophy that's like, you should never wish for a life that's free of stress and strife and, you know, and conflict and problems. Not because that's something that you know, wouldn't be nice, but because it's something that's unrealistic, you know. Those are, oh my god, the dodge. Those are in some ways just kind of like the byproducts to some extent of life, you know. Those are the in the same way that when you combine heat and oxygen and a hydrocarbon, you get a combustion reaction. That also, what is it? It makes methane? I can't remember. Look, it's been a long time since I was in like 12th and 11th grade chemistry. You can't make the fire without... Wait, methane is the thing that gets burned. Okay, you know what? It's not CO2, that's what I'm looking for. Wait, carbon monoxide. Okay, now, I've undermined my point by being scientifically illiterate. I apologize. You can't have the fire without making carbon monoxide. You can't live life without at least a little bit of stress, a little bit of conflict, and a little bit of, you know, trials and tribulations that essentially are completely unavoidable. What you should instead wish for, instead of a life free of stress and conflict, is the strength to deal with those. And, you know, I gotta keep in mind, we are talking about a video game here where, you know, it's not like we're in the middle of a high-stress sort of like trying to land a Boeing 747 in the Hudson River after a goose flies into one of our engines. But you know, philosophically, I think in the abstract, they share the same sort of thing. If I was the kind of person that, when I lost a streak, was like, hey, we're gonna take a week off of Isaac, it wouldn't sit right. It wouldn't sit right, let's put it that way. We definitely want this. And you know what? Let's treat this like win 65. Or whatever we were going for. Probably like 53. No, we got over 55. The right way to handle this is to not get overly aggressive. And don't just take Death's List because it's available and you could live. But, you know, you gotta... This is where we want to avoid slipping into our bad habits. I think the other reason... And again, this keep in mind, I am a 31-year-old man who has spent the last, well, like 9 years minimum, basically doing for a living, you know, what you see in front of you at this very moment. I'm not necessarily an expertise on this sort of stuff, nor a therapist, but like, the other reason I think it's not reasonable to accept a life free of stress is because your life will, in my opinion, always have stress in it. The stress just scales to what you got going on. You know? Like, and maybe I'm being a little bit... You might even take this as a little bit offensive, though it's not my intention. But, you know, when I think of, like, people who are in, like, high-stress jobs, you know, like surgeons and etc., firefighters, like, the things that stress them out are a little bit on a higher echelon than the things that stress me out. And without being rude, the things that stress me out, like, sometimes some of the complaints I see on Twitter, I'm like, that wouldn't bother me at all. I think, but it's not because I'm a different person, it's just because I'm used to a different scale of things, you know? So I'm stunned sometimes I see on Twitter that, you know, somebody online was very slightly mean to me is kind of a common refrain for, like, you know, the genesis of a 25 tweet thread. And I'm like, man, try being someone who plays video games online. There are people I've never met before have, like, really strong opinions about me based on just the jokes that I make while I play, like, Wreckfest or something like that. And then I think about, well, try being a provincial or state level politician then. If you think that's hard, you're like, oh, I'm gonna give another $350,000 to the water board. And then everybody in your newspaper comments and on the news is like, you know, what about this, 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 I hate you, you know? And then, okay, well, oh no, anonymous online toxic comments, you think those are bad? How about dragging a human being out of a burning building? Sure, okay. That's what I mean. So I try to keep it in perspective, you know? I've been there. I've been at lower levels of the stress curve for sure. I've been at higher levels of the stress curve, but not for a long period of time. Oh. But I've also been there where I was like, you know, they said the new episode of Survivor was going to come out tonight, but then due to some, you know, breaking news, they had to cancel the episode. This is outrageous. All that I was looking forward to all day in 7th grade was the new episode of Survivor. I thought we had the right to free speech. Where's my Survivor? That doesn't really compute in this situation, but I find sometimes if you just throw that in, people implicitly are like, yeah, we do! Release the Survivor episode. Hey, don't hit me. Okay. Okay, that's pretty good. We could definitely live with that. We could definitely work with that. And we'll just keep moving on throughout here. We came from that direction. We gotta find our item room. We really just need, like, a little HP and a speed upgrade would send us into the stratosphere right now. But I think that's true. That's why, like, I mean, to be honest, this sounds... Again, it's a little ageist, I'll recognize it. Or at least a little, I don't want to say anti-retirement, but, like... It's something I think about from time to time. Not that retirement is, like, on the horizon, but... Like, I really feel like when you retire, a lot of people have a noble aim. Ah, now that I'm not working, I can avoid so much stress, and, you know, I can just relax, I can finally do what I want to do, which is, like, you know, read my art books and take up toll painting or something like that. And then, it maybe goes, like, according to plan for a little while, but then after a bit, the world starts to shrink a little bit, and all of a sudden you're like, you know, Jane in my toll painting class is a real piece of garbage. Things that wouldn't have bothered you, you know, when you were raising your own family, or you had your own job to concern yourself with. you would have been like, I don't really like Jane, but that's okay. Now that you're like, you know, the toll painting class is what you look forward to every week. It's the highlight of your week. You're like, I hate that lady. I'm gonna cause drama with Jane. I think that's true. At least to some extent. Now, this is, to be fair, Jane is a person that I made up. For the purposes of this metaphor or comparison, Jane, her demeanor and actions could be anywhere from truly monstrous to, I think we'll just buy spirit hearts here, to like, I don't like the way she wears her bangs, you know? She's not a real person. You don't have to... I noticed this tendency online. You'll be like, well, maybe Jane's got her own problems. I made her up. She doesn't exist. I mean, there are people named Jane out there. The Bare Naked Ladies made a song about it. Okay, that may be a little bit overspendy there, but still very good. Look, Jane can fight her own battles. That's all I'm trying to say. I think that's true, and you know, in the whole scheme of things, I'm casting that inwards on myself as well. I have a feeling everybody that has been a new parent has told me, wait until the day you like actually meet your child. Everything in your life in an instant is gonna snap. Not in a bad way necessarily, but you know, like when you're opening a child-proof container of vitamins, and sometimes it takes a little bit to get the right cadence, but once you get it, it's like, you know, crack, rip. That's you successfully opening the bottle. I think it's something like that. You know, it's a snap from everything falling into like a different alignment. I'm kind of ready for that. I'm pretty sure I will be slightly less concerned about the loss of an Isaac streak when I have, you know, a completely dependent human life looking to me for not only, you know, like food and shelter, but also like, hey, teach me how to be a good person. That's, you know, that's probably gonna put stuff like the loss of the streak in perspective. But to be honest, that's also why I'm like slightly bummed out. I'm getting over it even as we speak. It's been a few days too. As part of the reason I'm enjoying taking the opportunity here to, you know, be a little bit better at games, to be honest with you, like practice Aim Beast so I can be a little bit better for Call of Duty Warzone. You know, it's really like I don't see it as like my last hurrah, so like let's get out there and you know, like it's my last chance to pursue the dream I've always wanted. That doesn't work. I don't see it like that at all. But what I see it as is like, hey, if you wanted to take this opportunity, this is pretty much your last shot. So you might as well, you know, give it a shot for a little bit. Oh, why would you pop it then? And, you know, it's not to say we won't still be decent at games. Hopefully. As time goes on, and, you know. Just saying, you know, that's my perspective on this issue. It feels good to talk about, let's put it that way. Two of you. Is this where I say this is getting out of hand? I did just lose my bones. I think we have 4... No, I think we have 5 spirit hearts. I think we lost the half spirit heart. So it's a pretty safe situation, but we might want to shy away from a deal with the devil here unless it gives us spirit hearts in return, or we get spirit hearts from this. That's also pretty good. It's tough. I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure Succubus is the play when you have a 2.52 damage stat, but we're working on it. We're working on it. I would like to get the ability to fly too. I guess we could just get it after we buy some spirit hearts, maybe. But that's where I'm at. You know, I try to remind myself, and this, don't take this as like a... If you see yourself in this comment, I don't mean it to be judgmental. I really, it's something that I wish other YouTubers took, not more seriously, but at least like had awareness of. You know, some of the people who watch your videos, your streams, you're kind of like their professional wrestling, you know? Or you're their, I don't know, even like a local news or something like that, depending on... I don't mean you have the duty of the local news. I mean you're kind of like there for routine. Like you're their radio host or something like that. You're their more... Like the way that someone like 20 years ago might have been like, oh, I really like this radio morning show for when I'm driving to work. You might be that for them. And you know, when people leave negative or like overly critical comments, and don't get me wrong, I have moments where like I read some comments. Usually it's not even on like my stuff anymore, but like, you know, like on a subreddit or something like that, and I see people write like essays about the philosophy of the content, which is essentially just designed to be entertainment. You kind of like, it's easy to get a little jaded and be like, why do you care so much about this thing that's really just meant to be kind of enjoyed and then disposed of? Not to make me seem like I'm not, you know, working hard here, but still, you gotta remember, you know, that's the... I think because your concerns in life scale to what you do and what you've got a habit for, that's how it happens. So, you know, I think that's over time how I've come to terms with this kind of parasocial relationship sort of stuff we've got going on here, is that, like, I get it. Like, I am maybe not the center, but I'm part of your sphere of entertainment, and if you consume a lot of entertainment daily, you got strong opinions about it. It is always a bit of a bit weird, though, sometimes when I see, I don't know, it's always strange, because there's a aspect of, like, I want to tell people, like, you know, like, when I recorded this episode, or people, like, have really, really strong, not in general, but in occasion, or on occasion, really, really strong opinions about the NLSS. And I always just, I don't wade in too much anymore, but sometimes people will be like, I've watched the show for 7 years, or something like that. And I've found that recently, the episodes just aren't as good. I stopped watching them, and I think that maybe this is the end of my journey with the NLSS, and I want to tell them, this is in all sincerity, I want to tell them, good, please stop. I would much rather, and again, this is not a huge number of people that are like inundating me on a daily basis, but I would much rather have you spend your time consuming something you enjoy over something that you have, like, you know, weird feelings about or conflicted feelings about, for two reasons. One is, I just have some empathy for that. Like, why would you spend time watching like, I saw some comments the other day from somebody who was like, I only watch the show now out of a sense of obligation. And I was like, leave. If you are watching me out of a sense of, like, guilt, or because you've been doing it for so long that you feel like you have to for some reason, if you're waiting for some closure from me, you could stop watching if you don't enjoy it anymore. I watched like 7 seasons of How I Met Your Mother. I hit an episode where I was like, I think this show's actually kind of bad. Never watched it again. I was like one episode away from the final season. And I could have watched that final season and had closure, but I was like, I don't feel like I'm enjoying it anymore. It's not worth my time. But I've been there in the sense, like, you can have a, like summer vacation in high school. I'd buy, like, one Xbox game and just play it to death, even when I wasn't enjoying it, or enjoying it as much. And when I skipped a day, it was like, oh, I feel guilty. I didn't play any World Series Baseball 2003 today, but it's not real, you know what I mean? Anyway, so that's and then the second thing I would say is, yeah, you know, like, the content changes, but also to some extent, when people tell me, and don't get me wrong, it's extremely flattering, when people are like, I've been watching you, I'm gonna try this, I am gonna try this. I've been watching you since middle school. I'm in college now, and I still watch you. That's the most flattering thing you could ever tell me. Because, for a couple of reasons. One is, like, you've been around for a long time. And then the other reason is that I feel like you know, maybe the content has gotten better over time because, to be quite honest with you, the standards of a middle school student versus the standards of an adult they tend to be different. When I taught English in Korea, every middle school student's favorite movie was Transformers 1 until Transformers 2 came out. People were like, or the kids were like, this is just the best film I've ever seen. I can't possibly comprehend of another film reaching the same highs that Transformers 2, The Dark Side of the Moon reaches. Or maybe it was 3, because I saw 2 when I was still in school. But anyway. But the other thing is, like, you know, when I see people say that they've been watching for 7 years and now they're not enjoying it so much, I'm like, brother, and now your watch has ended. You're free to go. I wouldn't expect, it would be hypocritical of me. Let's put it that way. I don't watch the same stuff I watched 7 years ago, except maybe the odd episode of Conan. And even then, I mostly watch the remotes, you know? I don't care for the celebrity interviews. I care for, you know, Conan goes to another country and is kind of like a troll, but like a nice troll, you know? That's the stuff I'm into. But it's like, maybe the show has changed, but also, you know, maybe you're not the same person you were when you were 11 years old. That's all I ask for there. And I didn't mean for this to be an episode with any kind of venting. It's just, you know, we started talking about, I guess, how I'm affected by the end of the streak. And the answer is, it's a bummer, but, like, I got other stuff going on. We're gonna get there. I'm not gonna have a mental breakdown because we're back at 1 win. I view this as like a long-term climb, you know? And if anything, I know last time we lost the streak, I was talking about how, like, this is a tryout, you know? The first few runs after you lose a streak are a tryout. To show the audience, I'm still diligent, I'm still hip, I'm still with it. Well, I think we succeeded on our tryout. We didn't get to the highest highs that we wanted to get to, but we did a pretty darn good job. Let's hope to keep that moving. It is weird. I mean, as long as we're on this subject, let's keep it going, because I think there's very little, at least that I see, very little conversation from YouTubers and Twitch streamers in a way that I like about the impact of, like, these sorts of comments. It seems like what you see the majority of the time is a YouTuber or a streamer taking, like, the worst of the worst comments and then, like, tweeting it and being like, this is ridiculous. And don't get me wrong, I've been there. And it is ridiculous the vast majority of the time. And when the back channels were all like, man, who cares so much about Resident Evil that they're like, this person insulted Resident Evil 5 or 6. I'm gonna make them feel bad about who they are as a person because they insulted a video game I kind of like, not that much, but at the same time, who do they think they are? I am, you know? But I really think, like... Hold on. This is just a slightly important moment in here. I'm hoping you're going to give me an HP upgrade here. We got the deal with the devil, but mostly we just want more HP to begin with. There we go. You know, I think way more of it is like... Those comments don't bother me that much. Really, they don't bother me at all. Because I completely understand that they're coming from somebody who's really just not behaving rationally, if that makes sense. Like, if I'm walking down the street and somebody's like, somebody just yells out, like, some kind of crazy conspiracy theory, I don't go, it's ridiculous that this guy would be out here on the street yelling that. If somebody came up to me and was like, nice shoes, but you're fat, I would be like, what the? That hits me to the core. Which is really, like, I don't struggle with any/many of the comments anymore. Not on YouTube, really. It's way more in, like, the unmoderated platforms. But the worst is the people, and I'm not saying you're worst people for this, it's just the worst ones to read are the ones that are like, hey, I'm a big fan, and I'm accidentally gonna be insulting. Like, hey, NL, Huge fan, been watching you forever. Just wondering why you're so stupid. And I'm like, oh, that's like... You know how, like... this is an offensive comparison, so I apologize. But I also think it's going to be hilarious, so I'm going to say you're welcome. You know how, like, kids can cut you to the core because with their honesty? Like, kids, they don't sugarcoat anything. They don't talk between the lines. They just go like, why don't you have hair? You know? Where did your hair go? Stuff like that. Hey, Uncle Ryan, what's that big red dot on your forehead? It's like, I don't know. I feel like at 31 years old, I shouldn't be getting forehead zits of this size, but yeah, okay. You know, I was a little sensitive about it when we were driving down to our in-laws' place. I was like, man, I really wish I didn't have this zit. I wonder what caused it. And then as soon as you get there, you know, you're gonna ask me what this bright red dot on my forehead is. Well, okay, it's clear to me then. It's very visible, and everybody else is just being polite by not mentioning it. That's kind of what those YouTube comments are like. It's like, hey, you're my number one place to go for comfort on the internet. I was just wondering when you got so dumb. And you're like, oh, that cuts you to the core. Anyway. This is not a negative thing. It's actually, and I've said this over the years, but the more time has gone on, the more time that I've done this as a job, I really think I've come up with, like, some good coping strategies, you know? I don't think it's been helpful in the past to just ignore the comments, because it kind of lets the cream sinks to the bottom instead of rising to the top. Having a little bit of a more active role in kind of gardening and shaping the community has been really positive, I think. I think it's been good. Anyway. Those are my thoughts. And if you're annoyed by the fact that we're talking about this stuff, I just want to tell you that the only other alternative would be talking about the fact that despite the quality of this run, we do still have a 2.25 damage, which is it's not on the low side. It's extraordinarily low, like a 1 in 40 level of lowness. That's helpful. Thank you. Okay. We can only take one. I think taking Brimstone makes this worse. I mean, we can take two. We just don't need to, I guess. We don't benefit from Aya Belial. And the cost is quite high. But, I think that this might make the situation worse here, this Brimstone Mom's Knife. However, I still support it. I still support it for the memes. A lot of people saying they've been missing the zaniness on occasion. Here's a little zaniness for you. We could have easily just sent this one to the end. I mean, is Brimstone Mom's Knife the ultimate level of Zane? No, it's still very strong. But at the same time, I don't control the items that show up on a run. If I did, we'd be on, like, you know, win 3,000 right now. And you wouldn't be watching anymore, because we'd be exclusively taking Brimstone every run. It's one of those things I bring up not to complain. For a couple of reasons. I don't like to complain about my job because I think my job is amazing, and I recognize that people would kill to have it. Like, literally, I think there are people in the community who would murder a person and take their life to have this job. Not even maybe to be like that successful at it, but just to have the ability to do it. I think, and you know, if you're saying like that's me, you got to check yourself a little bit there. I mean, that's just you're gonna a human life. That's precious. Come on now. Joker. Well, actually, let's save Joker. We don't need the stars card for anything. That's obvious. I'm just trying to make sure my head's in the right place on this run. But I almost wonder, like, if because the NLSS, and really streaming in general, is way more of like a it's taken me time to come to terms with this, is way more of a simulated friendship, or a surrogate friendship. Like, it's like 4 dudes, or, you know, 2 dudes, or 9 dudes, and occasionally 1 to 2 ladies as well. We're working on it. I promise. No, that's okay. that it creates this situation over the years. Like, there's just something in the human brain, depending on where you're at in your life. Oh, that's good. Where you're like, these are my friends, and then whenever there's like a change to the show, people are like, my friends made a change without consulting me, and I got strong opinions. But again, it's not to be negative about it. It's rather just, you know, the faster, or the more I come to terms with that, the more, the easier it becomes to deal with. Let's put it that way. So that's where I'm at. Related to the community, not so much related to... Oh, dude, Sad Bombs Brimstone, let's go. That's where I'm at with respect to that. You know, it's weird, like, in the same... I have to call myself out. I also have to call, my colleagues out. But let's leave it with myself first, because, you know, the same way that, like, I said, like, the smaller your world is, the more stressed out you get over... stuff that in the whole scheme of things tends to be relatively small. Me and, not my colleagues, I shouldn't say, because I can't speak for them, but other people in the industry for sure that I see on social media, we suffer from the same thing, you know? I can talk a big game about, like, why do people on the internet have such strong opinions about, like, who's on the show? Like, being like, I love when this person's on the show, that's one thing. But when someone is like, invite this person onto the show more, here's why. I've collated a list of your, the amount of laughter you've had when Robert is on the show versus the amount of laughter you've had when Corey is on the show. And Corey is showing a laugh differential of plus 3.1 laughs per minute, of course, adjusted for era. I go like, okay. A little scary, but okay, I understand. Well, you know, we'll take it under advisement. But even in the same way that you know, me and my other people that do what I do might be like, why do you care about this stuff? It's kind of the same way. Like, I think the community has the inverse relationship with it, which is also totally appropriate. Where, like, when you get 100 positive comments and 1 or 2 negative ones, the 1 or 2 negative ones stick in your head, and all the people watching is like, why do you care about what that idiot says? Have you seen their post history? Hold on. Oh, let's go. He's a genius. Careful. He's a hero. We definitely want this. I'm gonna get real spicy on this. Let's zane it up. Goodbye, Nail. Old friend. Great. 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 Because we have the D6, we can reroll those. They're not high value. Not necessarily. Well, why would I take the Parasite then? Great question. Well, because it's a great movie. But yeah, I could do better about that. I mean, I have done better about that. It's very, you know, that this year, like, doom scrolling became, like, part of the lexicon. If you're not familiar with doom scrolling, it's being on social media and just endlessly looking at new posts. And what you're looking for is not really entertainment, but mostly just scrolling because you're compelled to see the next, like, terrible piece of news. Like, I think that it switches, like, it hits a switch in people's brains where they're like, I need to be informed 100% of absolutely what's happening right now. Like, I need to be made aware of what's going on, so you end up spending like hours and hours just kind of reading terrible stuff and making yourself feel bad. I think every YouTuber and streamer has an aspect of that in their lives as well. I think that especially on YouTube, everybody's gone through the comments until they hit one that was like, you know what, that's enough comments for today. I'm trying to be better about it. I'm never really bad about it. I'm always wary, like, when I talk about the community stuff. Sometimes it's like, we need to talk. But most of the time, it's just like, man, I can only speak to what I know, you know? And what I know is mid-90s to mid-2000s music, an encyclopedic knowledge of film from that same era. Let's not call them film, let's call them movies, because usually it's like The Animal starring Rob Schneider. It's not Citizen Kane, or even Citizen Ruth. Just keep moving here. Oh, this is a good run, dude. This is a good run. And, you know, being a content creator, which really, like, if it takes 10,000... I know this is, like, debunked, but if it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something, this is basically all I got. For now, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And that's the most important win of all. The next win. For now, I'll see you next time. See ya!